Transition Awareness Breathing. Feeling grounded for both children and parents is essential for healthy living and learning. Join Eartha Powell on this series for tips and tools for creating a harmonious environment for learning. Transition Awareness Breathing will help you and your child find an individualized path to tackle change, promote lifelong learning, and discover new approaches to calmness.
Welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. This is Eartha. I am so glad you are here and joining with me one more time. I want to tell you a story. A long time ago, when I lived in one of the big metropolitan cities, that's where I grew up, my parents were concerned, actually. They thought that the city life was just getting too much. And so they decided that for our family, it would be best to move in the suburban area. It took a long time. It took a couple of years. Well, maybe more than a couple of years. But anyway, when we finally moved into our new home, we were so excited. Each one of us. I was a little girl, and my brother, he was little. Yet, the thing that we noticed was the silence. We were used to the city noise. The fire trucks, the cars blowing their horns, police cars, sirens, people, talking loud. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so, to us, it was normal to have that constant environmental noise. Even at night, there was a normacy of having some type of, in the background, police sirens or fire engines or tires screeching. And we thought that was normal. My parents said, we've had enough. So when we moved in the outskirts, in the suburbs, the first thing we all noticed was how quiet it was. Before I continue on this story, I do want to thank Web Talk Radio for allowing me to have a platform to bring Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast to you. And as always, I would like to thank Mary Lou and Sam for making Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast available to you wherever you are at. Shall I continue? Anyway, our first year out in the suburbs was quite an adjustment. The quietness, the grass. If you've ever grown up in a city, you know that the grass in some cities, it's just very selected areas. Well, in the suburbs where we grew up, my brother and I, everyone had pretty big lawns, and that was different. What we found out, none too soon, is that our new house was also on the flight pattern of the airport. We did not live too far from the airport. Matter of fact, we were, like I said, we were on the flight line to the airport, so we would hear the rumbling and the jets coming down close to our house. And to us, the house would just shake. I mean, you could see the landing wheels coming down. For us, we thought it was exciting. It was hard to concentrate with all the noise. But after a while, that noise would go away and we'd go down to silence. So we had silence and then an airplane. Silence and airplane. After a few years, do you know, we didn't pay attention to the airplane. It was as part of our normal environmental noise, just like the city noise we had gotten accustomed to. We would have guests come over and the planes would come down. And our family, my mom, my dad, my brother, we would just continue to talk, and our guest would crinkle their eyes and look up at the plane and say, "I can't hear you. Can you wait until the plane goes by?" And it's like, oh yeah, we had gotten used to it. Well, sometimes we can get used to different noises, can't we? And sometimes silence can be uncomfortable. And so I'd like to spend a little time talking about silence. The last time we talked about distractors. And I was just thinking how sometimes, for some of us, silence can be a distractor. But often, if silence is used strategically, silence can be a very powerful tool. So we have to be careful on how we use silence. Some people may find that they're not comfortable with silence. When I was teaching regularly on the platform in the military, I would have my students do this following exercise, and I'd like to share it with you. I won't do as long here on the podcast as I do with my students for the sake of time. But it'll just give you, and maybe you've done this exercise before. So I would ask my students to put away all their books, pencils, nothing on the desk. And these students were around 18, anywhere from 18-year-olds to 25, 26-year-olds. So they're pretty much, in their adulthood. And I would tell them, we're going to have a true moment of silence. See how you react to complete silence. And I'd have a timer. I'd set the timer. And that moment, that 1 minute, seemed so long. It seemed to stretch out. And why? Because I think we're so accustomed to having some type of distraction in our lives, some type of noise. And when I say distraction and noise, it doesn't have to be like external noises. It could be noises in our or distractions in our minds. Thinking about, when is this going to be over? I wonder what's going to be on the test. What is good for dinner? I'm hungry, or any thought that distracts us when there's no sound can be more than a distractor. It can be the noise, internal noise. And so I'd like to invite you, maybe for a couple of seconds, I'll stop talking. Put your cell phone away. Well, if I'm talking on your cell phone, put everything away. And pause the podcast if you like, or keep it on, because I'm not gonna talk, and I will say end of exercise, and then that's when you'll know. But it'll only be for a couple of seconds, so don't hang up. Okay, so begin exercise now. End of exercise. Sometimes when we have so much silence, we think something is wrong. Actually, we can use silence as a time to recharge, just to put everything away, our cell phones, any books or anything, and just be. Wouldn't that be nice? Finding a place where you can have a few moments of silence. Sometimes you have to make that environment for yourself. Ask your family to go on the errands without you and kind of stay back. You know how quiet your apartment or your house would be? And you might say, oh, it's too quiet. Use that time as a gift of silence. I was reading and I came across an article, and it was about a study that was done in 2013. And this study had to do with the effects of silence on mice. And what they found was that after 2 hours of silence a day, they found that there was a development of new brain cells in the mice hippocampus of the area of their brain. And that part of the brain is responsible for our memory, our emotions, and our learning. Isn't that interesting? Just a couple of hours of silence. Now, I'm not sure if anyone's available or able to do a couple hours of silence. But I think maybe if we worked at it, we could take maybe a few minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes of silence. I was using this exercise of let's be silent for a moment with my transition awareness breathing students, and they're elementary students. These are young students, and I love my students. They're so fun, and their energy is so fresh and honest. I said, okay, you guys. I said, put everything away. I said, I bet that you guys can be silent for 1 minute. After about 30 seconds, somebody giggled. And then somebody got fidgety. And then somebody said, is it over yet? It's something that really has to build up. With the benefits of silence, to increase our memory, to stimulate learning, and to give our body, our brain, a chance to kind of update. We're such emotional beings. You know, some people cannot stand to be in silence. They have noise on. Are you know anybody like that? As soon as they get up, they have their radio playing, or I used to be like that, actually. At night, I'd have soft music playing, very, very soft. And then when I wake up, I'd listen to the news. And then by the time I get to work, well, it was all over at work. It was one thing after another. When I got ready to come home, I listened to a book tape. But there was strategy. There was a reason why I was doing all of that, because I was trying to keep my mind off of things that I didn't want to think about. And so I felt like I had to listen to something to keep the mind going. But sometimes we do need to think about those things we don't want to think about, and just take a moment and take a breath and just be in the moment of silence. And sometimes that moment of silence is like a drink of fresh water. And then sometimes it could be so strong that you just want to talk to someone. But that moment of silence was so important for you. This week, try to find a moment of silence. Be thankful for who you are and what you have, and recognize you do have gifts. Let your body, let your brain go through your update. Give yourself permission to take a little daydream trip. And when you come back, welcome yourself back. Take a breath and enjoy your day. Thank you for joining me in Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. Have a great week.
Be sure and pick up a copy of Eartha's new book, Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's not just an ordinary coloring book. It features 23 illustrations to stimulate thought, relaxation, and creativity for anyone between the ages of 4 and 94. Increase your positive self-talk energy. Unlock new creative paths. Transform your time once or twice a week to create beautiful art while strengthening confidence, building positive self-talk, and sensitized self-awareness. Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's available now at Amazon.com.